You ever notice how you can walk the same piece of land for years and suddenly one morning the ground just feels wrong under your boots? That's how this whole mess started, just a little itch at the back of my neck. Something off with the world. I'm not one for drama, but after a couple decades keeping pipelines safe and offshore rigs from blowing sky high, you learn to trust your gut, especially when it's screaming at you. It began like nothing at all. North Pasture, a section of barbed wire I know by heart, looked like a first-year 4-H kid tried patching it up, ends twisted new but clumsy. I figured maybe elk, maybe a bored deer with a taste for mischief, but there were no tracks. No fur, just fresh boot prints leading off toward the ridge right up against that line where Blackwood Ridge HOA property starts. I fixed it and moved on. Should have known better. 3 days later, my baby peach saplings behind the greenhouse started turning brown at the edges, leaves curling, dying. I dug a little and damn near burned my nose on the Rika Chemicals herbicide. The industrial stuff poured straight into the roots. The youngest tree was gone before I even clocked what happened. Sheriff's deputy came out polite as you please, but all he did was suggest maybe kids did it or animals, or sometimes these things just happen. Yeah, sure, maybe sometimes. Not this time. See, I know sabotage. I know when someone's picking a fight and pretending it's just the wind. So when my East Side motion comm died a week later, I checked the wiring, clean cut, not torn, not chewed. Next, the backup solar inverter near the well fried with scorch marks. Obvious tampering. It was like someone was checking off a list. I started pulling every minute of grainy footage I could, praying to catch a face or license plate. What I got were windows of time, always 2:30 to 300 a.m. Always the southwest pasture, the spot nobody can see from the house, low enough you could crawl in without being spotted. That's when the memory hit me. A few years back, this woman, Karen Ho, comes to my place, calls herself the HOA president, offers to partner up for beautification, meaning she wanted to buy me out for cheap so her luxury development wouldn't have to look at an old barn and an orchard. I laughed. She didn't. Over time, her HOA started acting like a cartel SUV, patrols rolling by, community standards, logos everywhere, taking pictures at the gate, circling back like sharks. Subtle, then less subtle. That's when it clicked. This wasn't vandalism or bored teenagers. This was targeted pressure. They wanted me gone. So I stopped playing defense in daylight. I upgraded my camera's night vision redundant power hidden trail cams, wired every gate ditch and blind spot. I even built noise alarms with string and tin cans, the kind that scare deer, and apparently HOA commandos. After a few nights of this setup at exactly 2:38 a.m., I caught them 3 men all in black, moving like they'd done it 100 times. One went for my main breaker, one for the greenhouse, and the third kept watch from a parked pickup. Now you might think I'd call the sheriff again, but no, this time I waited. Moved my cot up into the barn thermos of coffee, monitors everywhere, pepper gel launcher within arm's reach. I warned my daughter Ellie there might be a power outage, told her to keep her phone close. At 2:43, the alarm tripped south fence line, same as before. I watched 2 of them hop the fence, one with bolt cutters, the other with a pry bar splitting up like they'd trained for it. The flashbang sensor popped just enough to blind, not enough to deafen. Barn lights snapped on, and I was already at the top door with the launcher out, yelling down. Hands where I can see 'em, down on your knees. This is private property. One froze. The other bolted right into a coyote pit I'd disguised with plywood and leaves. He yelped nothing fatal, just enough to slow him. Meanwhile, the guy in the truck panicked, tried to ram through my locked gate. It snapped shut, ripped his mirror off, and left him axle deep in the ditch. By the time I got down there with zip ties, the first guy was already prone, hands behind his head. The runner was moaning from the pit. Truck guy just gave up. I walked each of them to the tractor shed, zip-tied but unharmed, put them against the wall, camera rolling. At first they played tough. That lasted 2 minutes until I laid out the evidence herbicide bolt cutters, my busted camera. The youngest broke down first. It wasn't supposed to go like this, he stammered. Karen said it'd be easy. Mess up the pumps, trash the fence, that's it. Karen, the HOA president. She'd paid them cash, promised it was just property stress pressure. They'd believed they were helping the community. The driver said she'd told them my land was only mine by mistake, that they were fixing an old error. I filmed every word, every face, every tool, even the HOA branded map they'd brought, marked up with soft zones and no camera notations, like my home was a war game. At 4:15 a.m., I called 911. This is Trace Random. 3 intruders detained on my property, evidence of sabotage and conspiracy. Everything is on video. The deputies arrived 40 minutes later, Alvarez, and a rookie headlight sweeping over the truck still stuck in my ditch. I led them to the shed, handed Alvarez the camera, watched her face as she realized who she was dealing with. Jesus, these are HOA guys, she said. Not licensed. Freelancers at best, I replied. But the HOA map with Karen's initials told the real story. They'd come with a key card for HOA utilities. This wasn't a rogue job. This was coordinated. As the rookie bagged evidence and Alvarez called in forensics, one of the men, Denny, finally cracked, admitting they'd been told to apply pressure, that Karen had paid them and said the land wasn't really mine. Alvarez checked the deed clear as day 68 years back, no contest. This was a land grab, plain and simple. Then they found another bombshell in the truck. A manila envelope, no return address, containing doctored satellite images and HOA boundary lines pushed 200 feet onto my property, plus payment records for grounds improvement and a suspicious $4,000 mitigation incentive. The HOA was using dues money for sabotage. That night, Chris Grayson, a quiet HOA member I remembered from early development, showed up by the fence, tossed me a USB stick full of emails, budget memos, everything. Why? Because I'd hired his kid one summer, treated him right, and Chris had had enough of Karen's games. The files detailed everything: soft acquisition strategy, noise incidents, even a line from Karen herself. Make sure the well isn't usable by July. No water, no crops, easier buyout. Next day, Karen doubled down, put out a glossy clarification letter, called me unstable, and accused me of reckless endangerment. She held a meeting at the clubhouse, said I'd militarized the farmland. But the neighborhood was waking up. Residents started digging into HOA spending, found 12 consulting checks to Karen's landscaper for the same amount every month. Then someone leaked unedited board meeting transcripts, including Karen's quote, "The random property must be neutralized by attrition. If we can't buy it, we'll bankrupt it through nuisance enforcement." My lawyer, Deborah Moss, filed for an injunction. Judge granted it in under 24 hours. Karen lost her mind, tried to sue me for detaining her volunteers, but the real evidence, a USB full of emails, the map, the footage, turned the tide. Local media picked up the story. Suddenly it was bigger than a property dispute. Chris called again. Karen tried to bully him into signing a fake survey, redrawing the boundary line, but he refused. Meanwhile, public pressure mounted, and even HOA members started to split. Then out of nowhere, I got a letter. Just 3 words. Finish this fight. And a gold HOA pin taped to the bottom. Maybe a board member, maybe a neighbor. Didn't matter, I planned to. The trial was no beauty pageant. Karen strolled in with a white blazer and Botox smile, her lawyer smirking beside her. Deborah showed up with binders stuffed with evidence, video maps, forensics, Chris's USB. We showed this wasn't a neighbor dispute. It was organized sabotage. Karen's lawyer tried to claim I'd turned my farm into a booby-trapped militia base, but when the jury saw the footage and heard Chris's testimony, Karen's own handwriting about sabotaging the well, the hush payments, the fake maps, the jury just sat there, stone silent. By the end, Karen was convicted: criminal trespassing, conspiracy, attempted fraud. 2 of her patrol got prison time. The HOA had to pay $850,000 in damages and was dissolved by a resident vote. Karen's name erased. You'd think that's where the credits roll. But real life isn't that tidy. I helped put up the new volunteer fire station where the HOA clubhouse used to be. No speeches, just neighbors doing what needed done. First time I walked out at dawn and didn't find broken cameras or boot prints, I stood there a good minute just breathing. The check from the lawsuit covered the repairs, a better solar array, a donation to the fire station. Chris Grayson now runs the board, he earned it. Ellie sleeps easy again, and sometimes I catch her by the greenhouse earbuds and smiling. Reminds me why I fought in the first place. A couple weeks later, the county sent me a certificate for protecting agricultural integrity. The sheriff's department wrote a thank you note. But the gift that mattered, a neighbor kid brought me a hand-painted cedar sign, "Night trespass, morning in cuffs." Don't test it. I put it right on my front gate. Sometimes folks ask why I trusted the system, why I didn't just go vigilante. Truth is, I didn't trust much except the land my own two hands and the people willing to do right even when it's hard. Soil doesn't lie. Trees don't take bribes. You listen close enough, the dirt'll tell you what doesn't belong, and when it does, you rip it out by the roots. So let me ask you, what would you have done when the world tries to take what's yours? When the rules are bent to suit the powerful? Do you fight or do you fold? Drop your thoughts below hell. Maybe share a time when you had to dig your heels in and say enough. And if you think justice ought to come with a little sweat, a little stubbornness, and a whole lot of truth, hit like, subscribe, and stick around. This fight isn't over, not by a long shot.